Welcome back to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabolis. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Our guest today gives back in so many ways and creates a positive impact within many circles with her time and her talents. Angela Dingle is here. She's the CEO of Ex Nihilo. Sorry about that. I did it, and I swore that I wasn't going to, and I even did it phonetically. We got to laugh at me when I make mistakes, though. It isn't. It's Ex Nihilo. Come on,
there
Teresa.
you go.
There we go. But today she's here to talk to us about a passion project of hers called Deaf CyberCon, which is easier for me to pronounce, so I should have led with that. Angela, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, it's so good to be here with you. Thanks for having me today.
I am so glad you're here. I was fortunate enough to meet you through our mutual friend, Courtney Fairchild of Global Services, who is a wonderful connector, and she's done a lot for me in terms of connecting me with great people like you. I'm proud and I'm pleased to have you join us here today. And if you wouldn't mind, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your expertise in the work that you do with Ex Nihilo. Did it? There we go. And shed some light on all of the passion projects you have, because what we're talking about today is not the only organization that you're involved in. So if you can dive into that a little bit, and then we'll get talking about Deaf CyberCon as well.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. Angela Dingle. I am the CEO of Ex Nihilo. We are 20 years old. I'm a federal contractor for a long time. I tell folks all the time I started working for the federal government when I was 15 years old, but that's because my dad was in, and it made it easy to get in. We're a software. I'm not a software. We are a management and technology consultancy based out of Washington, D.C. And our sweet spot is in 3 areas. We help companies to protect themselves against cyber threats. So we have a variety of trusted services, trusted advisory services that we offer around cybersecurity, management consulting in its truest form. So providing advice and services to executives to help them to meet their corporate objectives. We use a number of automated tools in order to do that, to help them set strategic plans and build out performance metrics. And then we also do training in the federal space. We do leadership development for a number of different federal agencies in the form of either 3 or 5 day leadership development classes with a number of assessments like Myers-Briggs and Thomas Kilmann and other things like that. My passion projects are centered around a number of different things. I am the author of a book called Discovering Your Girl Powers. It's a book about executive presence, and I offer 10 strategies to build confidence, charisma, and credibility. And during the pandemic, when I was twiddling my thumbs, I decided to turn that into a more formal mastermind called The Power of the Pact, where I ask business leaders to make a pact and a commitment to grow their businesses. So we set some objectives, either personal or professional, and they use a variety of different tools to help them get from where they are to where they'd like to be in 90 days. And then the one that we'll talk about today is around cybersecurity, where I am forming an initiative that's focused on deaf women in cybersecurity. And I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk about that a little bit more as we go on today.
Absolutely. And, when I researched for this podcast and when I was first getting to know you, you're one of those women who are rare in the sense of you'll tell a girl if she's got lipstick on her teeth or she's got toilet paper stuck to her shoe, and not be doing it just because we're laughing and you're feeling bad about it. You really like to bring women up to a higher level because you know what it's like to have to work really hard for your space at the table. And I was completely impressed and blown away when we chatted about your journey and the things that you've been able to do in your career. You've been in this game for a long time, so you've made a wonderful name for yourself, but it wasn't always easy. And I think that some of the passion projects that I've seen you a part of are with that in mind, are helping people get into this difficult industry that's highly lucrative, but also not easy to crack into. And you've got an interesting story behind why you have made a focus with Deaf CyberCon. And if you can talk a little bit about, on a personal level, if you don't mind, how you came to create this initiative and why.
Sure. So Deaf CyberCon is really this play on the military's DEF CON levels of readiness. I have two sisters that are deaf, and they have had successful careers. We grew up not understanding that they were different. Not that we didn't recognize the uniqueness of them being deaf, but there was nothing that they couldn't do. As a matter of fact, I think my youngest sister is just fearless, and she's fearless to this day. My next to the oldest sister has retired already from Care First Blue Cross and Shield. And my youngest sister is retiring from the federal government, Department of the Army, in January of 2023. So I've been working on creating sustainability within my company. And I was looking at the sustainable development goals that are defined by the United Nations. And when I looked at gender equality, that's an area that I really wanted to focus on, because in my introduction, I forgot to share that the reason that we know Courtney together is through our relationship with Women Impacting Public Policy. I am the chairman of the board for Women Impacting Public Policy. They are an advocacy group for women in business, and Courtney is my vice chair, so we're partners in success and crime there. As I was thinking about this heart that I have for women and helping them to be successful, I was talking to a number of folks that are focused on cybersecurity, gender equality, and careers in cybersecurity. And one of the gentlemen that was sitting in the room with me started sharing how there are these barriers to entry for deaf women. They might get an interview, but they don't get beyond the interview, because once the interviewer finds out that they are deaf, although it's not legal, many of them just come up with excuses like, oh, we don't think it's going to be a cultural fit, or, not right now, we'll call you back. And the second that I heard him say that, it made me so angry that I just looked at him and I said to him in sign language, I'm angry about that and I'm going to do something about it. So that's kind of how we got to creating this Deaf Cyber initiative.
I love it. I mean, it is such a great initiative, but it overlaps with a couple of issues. Not only that there's an issue with, gender inequality, but to your point of the disabilities being a indicator of why someone isn't going to be hired. And I know when we prepped for this, we talked a bit about what it looks like in terms of deaf women or deaf people in general engaging in cybersecurity and why it is a good fit. So, before we get there, I understand from chatting with you that there's a gap in cyber hiring, period. And a lot of people are aware of that based off of, cybersecurity being such an important issue of the day. Tell me about that hiring gap in cyber right now.
Yeah, so globally, there's a hiring gap in cybersecurity. There are far more cyber criminals doing damage. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. It may not be more of them doing damage. They're using technology to do so much more damage than humans can do. And as we see things change from a political and diplomatic and global standpoint, those things also affect cybersecurity. Our Department of Defense, so anyone who's in federal contracting knows that the Department of Defense for a number of years has been trying to implement cybersecurity provisions for companies that do business with them. And that is driving, amongst other things, the need for informed and educated and qualified cybersecurity people. And so when we think about it globally, it's an issue. The pandemic didn't help, right? Because then folks want to work from home.
Right.
As I started to look at it from a local standpoint, in 2021, there were over 65,000 cybersecurity jobs that went unfilled.
Wow.
And this is an issue for the federal government because they need to hire folks that have expertise in cybersecurity as well. And there was an article that came out in the Washington Post that essentially said it is being viewed as a national security issue. Mm-hmm. Right. So what do we need to do what are the options that we have available for folks to get into cybersecurity and create some opportunities there? Because all of us, if you own a company and you're doing business, if you own a company, there are cyber threats that you're faced with all the time. If you want to do business with the federal government and the Department of Defense, it is becoming more and more of a go, no-go decision from a contracting standpoint. And I think we'll continue to see more of that across the federal contracting space. The cybersecurity maturity model, or CMMC, has been up and down and doing a number of different things. But the concept behind it needing qualified people to manage your cybersecurity is not going away anytime soon. There's essentially a heat map that's available online where you can see just the number of cybersecurity jobs that folks are not able to fill. The technology is changing so quickly. The field is advancing so quickly. And there have been just a number of things that have led men and women and other individuals either to not understand that career opportunity is available to them, or to feel like the barriers to entry were too much, and so they just didn't pursue a career in cybersecurity. And I was sitting on a panel with some other colleagues about a week or so, and we were talking about this concept behind what's happening from a hiring standpoint, and the industry has expanded now, right? So we need people who understand social behaviors, because phishing is social engineering, right? We need people that understand psychology and behavioral issues, because sometimes people commit cyber crimes because of other reasons, right? So it's not just this highly defined, you need a bachelor's degree in computer science and you need this number of certifications. It's really this broader need across the industry and across the world for people that not only have expertise that they have studied and are good in, but can bring that to the table to help us to fight some of the cybercrime that we're seeing around the world.
Right. So this is opening the doors for all people in general, because the need is so high. So with that in mind, and in keeping with your story about the hiring manager talking about engaging with deaf candidates for jobs, why now should they pay attention to the deaf community even more so in terms of cyber hiring?
So think about it. When you think about the stereotypical hacker or cyber criminal, what comes to mind for you? It's not a person in a suit with a briefcase that's walking into the office. Most often when you think about someone who is hacking, it's this image of a geek of some sort, dark shadow, maybe a hood on, that is introverted in a room by his or herself, surrounded by technology. Well, you don't necessarily need to be hearing in order to do that. And it's not like the cyber criminals are calling you up saying, hey, Teresa, I'm going to break into your computer right now, right? All of those things are happening silently. So a deaf person doesn't need to be able to hear in order to help to fight cybercrime. As long as they have the technical skill set to be able to do the work, then there shouldn't be any barriers to entry for them to start working in this industry. And just across, as you think about all of those different areas that are impacted by cybersecurity, I did a career fair at Gallaudet University back in the spring, and I had a very specific skill set that I was looking for, and I primarily was looking for women because of this initiative. And I had a college student, a male college student, walk up to the table. He looked at the position, introduced himself to me, and we were talking. And he read it, and he said, "Are you hiring any other positions besides cybersecurity?" And I said, "No, for this particular thing, that's what I'm looking for." So he looks at it and he goes, "I've got a degree in biology, but you need to hire me." And I was like, "I do?" And he says, "Yes. You said you need people that understand how to do research and analysis and be able to analyze big data. I do that in my sleep." And I was like, yes, right? We just need to think outside of the box when it comes to thinking about the skill sets. And this was a deaf candidate that was speaking to me, right? So even though he didn't have a background in technology, he still was able to make the linkage to the work that we needed to have done in cybersecurity. So I really think that as companies look for talent to hire to help them to build out their cybersecurity programs, as large corporations, and I'm having conversations with large corporations all the time to just kind of get them to think about the fact that, did you ever realize that this untapped resource pool was available? Because when you look at the federal marketplace, for instance, when you look at the federal civilian workforce, only 25% of them are women. Well, women make up half of the population in the United States. I believe it's 51%. So that's an untapped pool of resources that aren't being used. And then when you add the deaf community on top of that, it's a smaller community, but it's a talented community. I have deaf interns that are working with me now that are just as sharp as any other person that I've had on my team.
I mean, that's excellent. And it is all about bridging the gaps in certain areas so that more can be done. I think government contracting offers a unique perspective on that, because that's what we do all day long, or we connect dots that require thinking outside the box in order to differentiate yourselves. And so if a company can think a little bit beyond the tip of their own nose, they can see that based off of the information that you're providing, that's a wonderful way to incorporate a lot of wonderful professionals that may have otherwise been overlooked in years past. And I think a great initiative to to fill those gaps in the hiring issues within cybersecurity that we know is such a high alert form of insecurities in our world these days. It's such an easy access for someone to control a lot of our lives through hacking environment, and I love how you explain what we think a hacker looks like. I was thinking the exact same thing. Someone with multiple screens like I have in front of me right now, but has more proficiencies than me. I can't even get into my own email sometimes. So you definitely don't have to worry about me hacking anything. I just have a lot going on all the time. So,
definitely.
I mean, I love this so much because of the passion that you have behind it, and the fact that it is a family pull that's drawn you towards it. And I think a lot of what we do as women is emotionally driven. And so I know that men and women alike will be able to share the interest in making, the initiative that you're putting forth for, this organization to really push it out there. And I want to encourage everyone to look it up so that it can see more about it. So this is breaking down barriers for women and entering into a cybersecurity environment. Talk to us about how the organization is bringing women in. How are you finding women and actually drawing attention to a life in cyber, especially someone who may have technical proficiencies, may even have a technical degree, but just didn't see that this would be a good fit for them? How are you finding people to be involved?
Yeah, I think that you'll find in any underrepresented community, people need to see people who look like them to know that that's an option for them, right? So being able to identify role models for deaf women to see in cybersecurity is something that's really important. I've created an online collaborative environment where it is LinkedIn-like, where I can connect hiring managers and talent managers and members of the deaf community, the academic community, business owners like myself, and nonprofits that are interested in tackling this, right? And so it's information sharing, what's happening in the industry, what types of internships. Like, this was great this summer. There are so many companies that are offering internships for cybersecurity. But I'm also having conversations with both members of the deaf community and members in the business community to get them to just think outside of the box a little bit. In the business community, we tend to write position descriptions a specific way. And one of the most common things that we say is excellent verbal and written communication skills. Well, that one little sentence can turn someone off, right? So I'm having conversations with members of the deaf community to say, don't be turned off by that, right? And be like the gentleman that walked up to me and said, okay, I might not have a degree in IT, but I can still help you out from a cybersecurity standpoint. And I have a webinar series that I'm getting ready to host. It's a 5-part series that's just about education, right? What's the need? What are some of the barriers that the women feel like they're facing? What are the myths that the business owners have about hiring them, right? Well, how do I have to have an interpreter on every call? There are different degrees of hearing. And so for some members of the deaf community, they may need an interpreter. For some, they may not need an interpreter. They may just be able to use closed captioning. And that's an individual conversation that you have with them. So it's not necessarily an additional technology cost for you. There are obviously accommodations that you want to make from a legal standpoint, but trying to bring all of those members together in a conversation. So it's these 5 webinar series, and my intent, both with the education, educating people about the need, and by connecting people, is that there will be some matchmaking, right? That some folks will end up hiring members of the deaf community, and also to be able to, for those 5 levels of DEF CON, that readiness, to be able to take cohorts, 10 to 20 deaf women at a time, put them through a boot camp so that they get their cybersecurity certifications, because the universities are teaching them technology and cybersecurity, but the universities don't grant certifications. And if you want to do cybersecurity in the federal marketplace, you've got to have some form of certifications. So really being able to take cohorts, get them through those boot camps so that they have the certifications, and then and let's say we're looking at someone who's just coming out of college, they may have the degree but not have the certifications, the degrees of readiness, so that they understand where they fit in the ecosystem. So the deaf women understand where they fit in the ecosystem so that the hiring managers and companies that need to hire them know what kind of skill set it is that they're getting, and then to create a community where people can have some open and honest conversations about what all of this looks like. So that's what's going on. It's going to be 5 webinars that'll be coming up here shortly. The most of the universities, the students are just coming back. So we have conversations with Gallaudet and some of the other universities across the country and the high schools across the country so that we can introduce them at a much younger age.
That's great. I was on an advisory board for a local technology magnet school here in Orlando, and they did a lot of initiatives like that. I think what's invaluable that you were speaking to are the certification cohorts that you're going to connect people with. Those not only are, expensive, especially when you're getting done. So if you're giving them access to that, as a group, I got to imagine that it's more cost effective there as well. And the fact that it's more attractive when they know that they're being ushered into those certifications from a group like yours. So I think that that's fabulous. And I'm going to push out the information on the webinars too, when you start publicizing them as they come out. So if other people in our network are interested in it and just didn't know that you existed, we'd love to expose it. We've got great school systems down here in Florida that would, definitely eat up having the opportunity to work with you as well. So I'd love to be able to open some doors there where I'm able to. I'm a mile from UCF and I'm a graduate twice over from there. I'm sure I can rope someone in that will listen to you for sure.
Good.
Well,
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add that while one might traditionally look to a deaf university to be able to find these candidates, depending on what part of the country that people live in and what their interest is, they may go to a hearing university, right? So they may not be coming out of the deaf university. So I'm just having those conversations across the board because wherever we can find them, we want to introduce them to this option.
Absolutely. And that's wonderful. I mean, because I'm sure that there's a lot that is happening on the normal state school level, and being exposed to something new like this is great. So like I said, if I can help you in any way expand down here too, I'd love to. With that being said, how about events coming up soon that you're going to be a part of that people might be able to catch you at, anything virtually or in person that they can find you?
Yeah. So I'll be speaking at a number of different things coming up here over the next couple of weeks. So I'm speaking at Women in Technology. They have a leadership development program, so I'll be doing that on September 13th in the evening. I'll be speaking to the African American Federal Executive Association about women in leadership in cybersecurity. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. I will be both on a panel and doing a session on cyber savvy CEOs during the Cyber Saint Stronger Conference 2022.
Say that 3 times fast.
I know, right? September 14th through the 16th. I always say there are CEOs that understand the risks associated with cybersecurity, and there are those that don't. And so we want to talk to those cyber savvy CEOs about what they need to do to continue to protect themselves. And then there's a conference coming up, Sub 4 Capital. It's a cyber conference that I've spoken at a number of times. We'll be in Amelia Island on October 17th. So
hey, it's beautiful there. You'll be down here.
Yeah. I'll get you the dates on the webinar series. We are partnered with and sponsored for that webinar series by Get Cities DC, Gender Equality and Technology Cities DC.
Awesome. We've got a full slate of events coming up. So I'm glad that I get to catch up with you a little bit. I'm going to see you really soon and I'm excited to do that. Yeah. We always have a good time. We women get together and we know how to have a good time, don't we?
We do know how to have a good time.
I love it. So, pardon?
I said, we'll see each other at HubZone as well.
Absolutely. That I look forward to every year. That's one of my favorites. It's nice and intimate. So we really get to have a good time and everyone can get involved. So I never miss that. I love it. Well, before we let you rush off on us, do you have any last pieces of advice, tips for anyone that's listening?
Yeah, I think that as we think about the future of what government contracting looks like, because I know that's part of your audience, I think we really need to think outside of the box in the way that we have traditionally looked at acquiring talent. Specifically as it relates to cybersecurity, I think we ought to look at the deaf community, but in general, I think there are a number of different communities who we could advance sustainability within our corporations. We could do a lot with respect to diversity and inclusion in our corporations, and that will allow us to bring the best and the brightest to the federal marketplace as we deliver services.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, you're an amazing person, and I'm grateful to know you. I'm glad that we were able to shed some light on a very important topic. And I know it's close to your heart, near and dear. And so it was a pleasure to have you here today. We encourage everyone to follow Angela on LinkedIn, get more information about her upcoming events there, and learn more about Deaf CyberCon and any of the other organizations she supports, including her day job, right? So thank you again. I appreciate you very much. And I hope you'll come back again, because I know you're going to have lots going on in the upcoming months and year. And so we hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful spending some time with you. I can't wait to see you in person.
Thank you. Me too. And again, thank you all for staying tuned. We're excited to continue sharing the amazing industry experts and resources that will be on our show in the coming months. And I hope you'll join us again soon for Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon with Parabolis, and I hope everyone has a great day.